All right, so when you open up InDesign, it's going to look like this. It's going to ask you what you want to do. I don't know what these are. Let's click on one and find out. Hey, look. Text. Oh yeah, this is just an example of what I was putting together. All right, well, we'll just start a new one. So you start a new document. You're going to, I can't talk today. You need to specify the number of pages. You'll notice that there's also intent. What are you going to do? There's a preset. You're going to print it. It can make web and mobile. Like a lot of times, for some weird reason, InDesign is also really capable at making websites, which I find baffling. The code is really gross. It's not easy to work with, but in a pinch, you can use InDesign to make websites. So number of pages, what page should it start on? Are they facing pages? You know, that means like you have content on this page and content on this page. And so when you close them, they face. Does that make sense? So number of pages, I'm going to go with that default 22. Facing pages, we're going to start on page 1. Don't worry about the primary text frame. What size are you going to have? This you need to know. Hi, Siri. This you need to check on Blurb and kind of decide beforehand what size book you're going to do. So if you're doing, like, you can look at Lulu, not Lulumon, Blurb, Lulu, there we go. Create, see, templates. Yeah, so let's see, portrait basic, landscape. So these will probably be 8.5 by 11s, baby books, etc., etc. Just decide on what format you're going to do. Trying to find like an actual size here. There we go. So, okay, 7 by 7 is their smallest, 8 by 10, 10 by 8, 12 by 12, etc. So decide on your size first, and then you, of course, will set up your document. There are presets, but like say you're doing the 7 by 7, you'll need to set it up like that. How many columns? These columns are essentially this, okay? So let's see if this, all right. So with this document, I set up 2 columns within my text frame. All right, you're always going to have a text frame because you have to have a margin. You have to have a margin for printing, and a margin just makes text easier to read. If this text is touching the edges, which is called a bleed, it's going to be very difficult for someone to scan. It's okay for like big, you know, visual elements like this ampersand in the back. I could have that touching and have that bleed. But if it's actually content that you need someone to understand, don't have it touch boxes. All right, give it a nice margin. Usually a good rule of thumb is twice whatever the line height is, so twice whatever the space is between these 2 lines. All right, that's how much space you want around a block of text. Okay. So if you want to do 2 columns, so if you have lots of text, it's really dense, I would definitely recommend 2 columns. If you're doing like novels are always 1 column because they have a larger font size usually than like a magazine. So novels, you know, their pages, you're always going to have 1 column of text and just read it kind of nice and calmly across. Magazines, newspapers, magazines generally have 2 columns, sometimes 3 or 4. Newspapers are the same way. They just have a lot of content to get through, and there are a lot of studies in perception about what's a comfortable number of characters to read before you just feel a little overwhelmed, and it's around 75 to 80. So most column widths are about 75 characters, 75 to 80 characters. Okay, I don't know that mine is exactly that. I think mine's a little less, but that's just a good rule of thumb. Okay. So decide, you know, think about, are you going to want columns? What kind of gutter, so what kind of space between the columns are you going to have? Let's see, this is 1/16th, I think, of an inch. 125. No, this is a little over an eighth. I can't remember. Stupid met. We need to just metric system makes it so much easier. 7. Oops. 0.1667 inch. I'll just Google it. Okay, that's not what I want. Yeah, it's a fraction. Oh, it's a sixth. 1/6. So 1/6 of an inch is a very weird fraction. 16% of an inch. Okay. You can play with it and kind of get a sense of what that's going to look like. If you hit preview, it'll show you what. Yeah. How did I what? Is yours in points, like PT? Yeah, I'll show you. I'll show you how to change that. If you preview it, it'll show you the document as you set it up. So if you wanted to like make the margin bigger, you can do that. And you can see it's stepping for me. So here's 1/4 of an inch. It's about 1/8 of an inch. That's 1/8 of an inch. So it's going in 1/16th of an inch increments. It's 1/8 of an inch. That's a good round number. Margins for your top and bottom. These are your print margins. This is 1/2 an inch, which is a little aggressive. You could probably get away with, oops, not 2 inches. 0.25. This little chain link in the middle just keeps all the margins the same. It keeps them locked. Definitely check with your printer for margins though. Sheets blurb logo. But we need to know where 7x7. Oh, they upped their prices. What? Wow. That's $10 more than it was last year. Well, I guess the minimum is 30 now. Oh, wait, hold on. There we go, 15. Minimum is 15. Oh, okay, so that's down. So if you do a soft cover, it's 15. I don't want look right. So here's that InDesign plugin. You can use that. Let's just Google it. Blurb page margins. Oh, all right, it's a broken link. Centimeters, so 1/4 of an inch. All right, so they need 1/4 of an inch margin on the edges. So that's at 0.25. If you have stuff that is going to touch those margins, maybe make it a little bit more, just to ensure that it doesn't get cut off in a weird way. You can reduce the number of print errors you have if you do that. Bleed and slug. So bleed again is kind of what I was talking about with the images or stuff touching the edges of the page. You can set that. You can set a margin for that, so it comes in a little bit from the actual edge of the page, or like where the page gets cut. So if you're doing like extra cutting of the book afterwards, you'd want to do that. The slug is just the area around that the printer will grab onto to hold onto it. If you set them at the default 0, it's just going to use the margin error to roll the paper through. So there's all this weird stuff that you have to know or like take into account when you're setting up a digital document to be printed. Stuff that you don't have to worry too much about when you're just working in a digital medium. But for the most part, you can go with the defaults. You'll be okay. I would think about mostly just how you want your book to look. You know, start there. When you're setting up the document, you can change each page inside the document. So don't think that you have to, that whatever settings you're setting here are final for every single page. Okay. All right, just gonna start there. All right, so made that document. And then you can see here that the next, you know, it looks a lot like Photoshop and Illustrator by default. It's got a toolbar over here on the left. It's got a bunch of option windows over here on the right. It's got this thing called Pages, which is different and new. That's not the same as Illustrator or Photoshop. But what this is is sort of like a master look at all the pages that you have in your document. Okay, how they're organized, which pages are face pages. So if they're side by side like this, that means they're face pages. Okay, they're facing pages. This would be your front cover. All right. Up here at the top are your templates. All right, these are called your masters. You can have a bunch of different ones. This little in the corner here, it says A. That's because all these pages are following your A master. All right, what masters are good for is setting up like a basic template for the composition. So if you know that you want all your A pages to be image pages with maybe a little bit of text in a column, then you would set up the master to be that way, and then select all the groups that you want to also be that way and just apply the master to them. Okay, and I'll show you how to do that. Inside here, you've got layers. Links, this is all the links to internally in the pages. This is if you're setting up a website or an ebook. If you're doing an ebook, because it can publish ebooks, then you would worry about links. We're not doing anything with links because we're printing. Okay, so you don't have to worry about too much. Zoom tight. Let's see, what else? The biggest difference with InDesign is this kind of toolbar on steroids up here. You'll notice that it's twice the size of the toolbar from Photoshop and Illustrator. It has a lot more stuff in it, all right? If you need to know how to do something or you're trying to figure out how to format text, odds are that option is going to be up here in the toolbar. The toolbar changes for each tool that you have selected. Content, yeah, I don't know, what did I just click? Content collector tool. So your text tool, this has got all your text options, but then it also has a paragraph option, paragraph formatting options underneath it. So this is where you would set justification. This is where you would set like insets, first line indents, right indents, last line indents. There's all kinds of junk you can do here. You can set up styles so that you can quickly format lots of text to match a certain style. The benefit of doing that too is if you want to change that style and you have a bunch of different places in your book that have that style, you change it one place and it propagates throughout the whole book. It changes everything for you. So you're fine. Aligning all your align tools for your paragraphs, etc. So the top one would be just text, like the actual words and characters, and then your bottom one is your paragraph. And you can play around with that. Line tools for drawing, pen tools, pencils, rectangle frames. So this frame is a different idea too than what we've really come across in Illustrator and Photoshop. It's sort of analogous to like an image mask, kind of. That's pretty much what it is, this frame. It's every object in InDesign. So you'll have your object, so be it an image or a text or a character. And actually, let's place an image real quick. What do I got? It's a gorilla waving at my daughter at the zoo. It was pretty cute. So I'm going to lay it out. So this is me placing my text, my image. Okay. Now it's hard to see, but there's a blue outline around this, and then you get the circle when I mouse over it. That is the image frame itself. So think of like an actual picture with a picture frame on a wall, right? You've got the picture inside the frame. The frame sets the bounds of that picture. Okay. Well, what you can do, you can double click it. Come here. Or maybe it's the center now. Yeah. So if you double click it, you can actually move the image around inside that frame. So you see the red outline that I've got now, that red box? It's kind of difficult to see. That's the picture inside the blue frame. So the frame is where I originally put it, but now I'm scaling up or moving around the image inside of it. You can make it bigger. So if I double click on it, I can see how it crops it out like that. That's the idea behind frames. Frames just set a boundary for that object that's inside of it. Text has frames. Images have frames, of course. Frames are kind of always there. But there is a rectangle frame tool, an ellipse, and a polygon frame tool. So you can set different kinds of frames too. And that's good for, let's see if I remember how to do this. Say I want, a polygon. My layout has a polygon tool. If I remember how to do this, should be able to put an image in it.
You go to File, Place.
Ah, there we go. Place, and with it selected, it just does it automatically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. Yeah, that's right. Thanks. It's been a while since I used it. What do you use it for again? What were you doing?
My internship.
Your internship. Sweet. All right, so Jack's the person to ask if you have questions. Yeah, so you can also, I guess you don't double click anymore. You can just grab the circle. Oh, that's nice. That shows you how often I use InDesign in there. But I want to get inside of it too. Oh, there we go. The image is way big. So that's the other thing you got to remember is sometimes your image will be so big you can't actually see the bounds of it. So just zoom out. And the zoom is the same as it is in Photoshop and Illustrator. It's just Alt and your mouse wheel and moving around, or Command minus, Command plus. Holding Shift and Option will get you to do a uniform scaling. It'll keep your proportions. All right. So maybe you want that. Let's see. There we go. She was like 2 in this picture. Okay. That's the gorilla that broke the window too. Last year was that, I think? Yeah, but he was really cool with my daughter because she didn't do the aggressive thing that other little girl did. So all right, so you're gonna do something like that. Maybe you want like a weird shape for your images. But then you need to put some text in here as well. When you're doing your text, it's a good idea to drag text boxes for content. This acts as a frame for the text and will keep the text inside that shape. But you can also wrap it around that image, and I'm going to have to remember how to do that unless Jack remembers off the top of his head. Do you remember? No, yeah. Let's see, is lorem ipsum built in here now? I think so. It used to be. No. All right.
Placeholder text?
Oh, is that what it is now?
Yeah.
That's what they call it instead of just lorem ipsum? Where do you see that? Placeholder text. Folder fill with placeholder text. It is under type at the bottom. Okay. All right, so that gives me lorem ipsum, which is just dummy Latin. All right, it doesn't actually mean anything. It's fake Latin. Now I gotta remember how to do a text wrap. Come on. My computer doesn't like running InDesign and recording. There we go, text wrap. All right, so the text wrap tool. You apply text wraps to images and other objects. You can see here these are different kinds of wraps. The wrap around, the wrap on the top and the bottom, the wrap just on the top, which makes all the images go away. This tries to wrap around the image really well, but of course is going to leave you little funky artifacts like that. So you just got to play around with the options and kind of get a sense. This is where you set your margins. They're locked, so they're going to be equal on all sides. And I'm just trying to set a large enough margin so that I don't end up with like a nice little cut like that. This blue box is that margin. There we go. So that is sort of close to what you'd want to do. The main thing is just not, trying not to end up with weird little words like that. Let us do a custom. There we go. Sometimes I like to do a custom so that I do more on the top than I do on the bottom. But there we go. It's not going to let me. So it wants to keep it because of the weird shape. I want to make my bottom smaller so that it would put a line here. But you really just have to play around with it. Okay. If you're going to do odd shaped images, it still works. It still looks fine. Oops, cancel. What is it? Cancel. View, Shift E. Nope, never mind. Is it this? Dang it. Oh, there we go. Shift W. There's no command. This Shift W gives you a preview of what the actual document looks like, and then you can use your arrow keys to kind of cycle through it, but I don't have any other content. All right, so that was that really quickly. You can hit Escape to get out of it, or you can hit Shift 0 again. Let's come back to this document that I set up before. If you're going to be playing around with other text inside this, if you want to kind of like set up almost like a magazine style or a more interesting book style, with this ampersand that I did in the background, that is literally just an ampersand text object that I stuck in there. Why can't I click on anything? Nothing's locked. I set that up as a B master. Actually, let's do that real quick. So let's set up a new master. This is really ugly. Let's move it down here. Nah, it's just gross. I don't like the hexagon image. Let's change our font stuff. And just fill it again. Maybe make it also fit your actual text column widths. Instead of just having a box. All right. You can duplicate it, so that's just holding Option and drag. The only problem with duplication is that if you have actual text that you want to use in here, so maybe you go to Gutenberg.org and grab a free book, right? Like if I had somebody do a Sherlock Holmes book 1 year, just grab anything in here, like Sherlock. Let's see, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. So I'm just going to grab plain text. So this is all the Sherlock Holmes books. All right, so maybe I want to do this one. So I'm going to grab a bunch of this text to dump into the book, copy it, come back over here, get your text object, paste it in here. Now obviously the formatting is a little goofy, but if you have more text than what you can actually show in your frame, you get this little red plus, okay? And that just means that there's more that's being hidden by this frame. And if you want that to automatically fill over into that next column, you have to click and drag. Oh, I'm sorry, is it Option click and drag now? Uh-oh.
You can just click it.
That's what I thought. Oh, okay, and then just dump it over there? Yeah, nice. In Illustrator, you have to click and drag a line, so I thought it was the same in InDesign. So yeah, that's nice. You just click it and then move over to the other text frame that you want to dump it into, and it will automatically start filling that. Okay. But then you got to do that for the other ones too. Okay. This formatting is way off. Yeah, that's too bad. You need to clean that up if you wanted to use it. Okay, so let's set up another master. Oops. Master to pages. Create a new page. There we go. Right click for a new master. It's automatically going to be the B. How many pages should it be? If you want to just do 1 or 2, that's up to you. Should you base your master on another master? Who took a picture of something?
No, I just screenshot it.
Oh, okay. Hit OK and it sets it up. Now you're working in your master if you do this. So if you have it selected up here, then you're working on it. You would set up your template in here. So say I want like one text, one type column here. I want to set it up to be an 11 point, and maybe like something different. Oops. That. Remember, the master is just a template. So you just set up your template. Actually, interesting note, sans serif fonts are actually easier to read in books than serifed fonts. I'm sorry, flip that. Serifed fonts are easier to read than sans serifed fonts on pages. Sans serifed fonts are easier to read on screens. The difference being like, this is a sans serifed font. Okay, serifs are the little bits that hang off the words, or the type. I'll show you an example. Copy that over. Change this back to Minion. All right, so here we've got two different types of fonts. This is a serifed font because of these little bits that come off of the stems of the type. Okay, so these little swoops, these little tiny embellishments. All right, this is easier to read on a page, on a printed page. And it's fine on a screen, but it's not as easy on a screen. Generally, sans serifed fonts, which just means without serifs, sans just means without, they don't have those embellishments. These are generally easier to read on screen. So good screen font, bad print font, good print font, bad screen font. Does that make sense? All right, so if you're picking fonts for your book, try to stick to a serifed font. Okay, unless for some reason you really, really hate serif fonts and you absolutely have to have a sans serif font. Any questions about that? Any questions about anything so far? I know I'm doing my best not to like essentially read out loud a tutorial video, but that's what these kind of become sometimes. So I'll let you play around and get started here in a few minutes. All right, so I'm working in the master. I'm just trying to set it up. There's other styles you can set up for text too. I'm gonna get rid of this real quick. Let's see, let's change it back to Minion, and 10 points fine, and I'm gonna just fill it a little bit more. Oops. Okay. So maybe you want to set up like a block quote thing. Let's go Minion. Your block quote should be a little different. So not exactly the same. Well, we could just go italic. Oops. Yeah, okay. All right. Make your box the dimension of your actual text. We are going to play with it here. Block quotes are always bigger. Somebody's phone's ringing. Hear it. It's vibrating, not ringing. Sorry. Is that yours, Jack?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no idea who it is.
It's all right. Okay, so this would be like a block quote. Maybe set up some color for it. Actually, keep going back and forth like that. That's all fine. Is there a bold italic? That's better. And then, well, that's the line. Where's my text color? Like maybe you just want it to be a slightly different color. You can add more swatches. That's all my swatches. Well, play around with your color if you want to, but I'm just going to stick it with that cyan. So there's a block quote. This is just a style that you can keep. Because I'm working in the master right now, if I want to apply, let's see, apply master to pages. Which master do I apply? I'm applying the B master to 6 and 7 and hitting OK. And so now pages 6 and 7 have this master that I've set up. Maybe I want also like 14 and 15 to have that, so I'm just selecting them and then saying apply master to pages, right clicking for that, applying that B. Okay, cool. But maybe I decide I suddenly don't like that, or I need to add something to those pages. Instead of going into the individual pages to add them, what you can do, yeah, okay, I thought so. What you can do is come over here and actually add. You can come up to the master, add elements, and they will propagate. So maybe I'll add an image. It's about that big. Let's see. Let's give it just a color. That way we can see it. That's gonna be an image placeholder, and then a smaller text column. And I'll fill that with placeholder text. That is not italic. It's regular. Oops. If you have the whole box selected, like you can see the outline of it. You can see these extra knobs, like editing the corners, etc., like that. The transform handles. If you have that selected, then you have the entire box selected, and you can really easily edit the characteristics. If you don't see that, like you're inside of it like this, and you start editing characteristics, it's not going to change for all of them unless you hit Command A to copy all of the text. Okay. So the easier way to know that you're going to change all the text is just make sure that you are that you can see this, the edges and all these little transform handles. If you don't see them, but you know you have it selected, like you can see your cursor, you can hit Escape. That will pull you out of editing the text and just grab the text object itself, or you can click, like double click out here somewhere in the edge and then come back, in the gray, and then come back and select it. Okay, let's do a little paragraph editing too. So, for paragraph justification, it's up to you what you want to do. I'm not super sold on any one particular way. Newspapers do full justification. Full justification is actually hard to read for the eye. It's hard to scan. I'm all about left justification, so it's just however you want it to be. What I do kind of think is fun is doing something like paragraph, making the paragraph letters a little bigger. And then let's see, there's space after the paragraphs. Jack, do you remember where that is? Spacing after the paragraphs. Is it this one? Yeah, space after. And this will give you a bit of space after each of your paragraphs. Which is kind of handy and nice. It just makes it easier to read. All right, so that is that master now, and you'll see that 6 and 7 had that selected. They have that that master has been applied to them now, which is a lot easier. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah.
So when you made that text bigger, it cuts them off. And where
Yep.
does that text go?
It's actually hiding under the frame right now, but what you can do to it is, so maybe I want, I'll do it in the master. Let me come up to the master. I'm double clicking on it to isolate it, right, to open it up. You can click on it here, and then where that is, you just click and see how the icon changes. Like that, it's showing me a little bit of text. Click on that there, and then just dump it. Click on this text box, and it will dump it in here. It should have grabbed its characteristics, but it did not. Let's change some stuff here. No, you're not going to let me change it? Huh, I don't know why I didn't copy the formatting over for the styles. Let's see if I can set up a paragraph style. New paragraph style. We'll just call it style 1, that's fine. Based on paragraph style. Alright, so there's a paragraph style. Come over here. Say B paragraph style. Oops, oh, it's just editing that. Okay. All right, I'll have to look that up again and try to figure out why it didn't copy that paragraph style. But you can copy styles over so that it would do the same thing with the spacing, which actually it did. But then the initial letter size increasing too. So, and it's generally increasing that letter size by font, I think. Could be because I'm in the master. Let me see. That might be it. Somebody really wants to get a hold of you. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know why I did that. Okay. Is that enough to get started, you guys think? I mean, that's literally the basics of what you have to do, right? That's the default. There are a bunch of extra little things, embellishments, stuff like that. The thing that I want you to really pay attention to is your spacing and your alignment. All right, set up your templates so that you've got some columns to work with, that you're aligning your objects, you're aligning like blocks of text together. I don't want like an image that's kind of over here and then some text that's over here and it doesn't look like they belong together or anything. Okay, things should line up. It should look like it belongs on the page and that it's adhered to some sort of grid. All right. Any questions? No? Okay. All right, go ahead and get started. You do have to have text. So you don't have to have a ton of text. I'd say about 1,000 words. Okay? It's not really a lot. You don't have to write it. You can grab it from somewhere. Right? Make a book of poetry, whatever. If you're going to do recipes, then I guess you probably do have to write it unless you're copying the recipes from somewhere. You do have to have images. Okay. But other things you can do are like text embellishments. When I made that, I'll just do it here. When I did that ampersand on the other one, that's a nice ampersand. Let's just go like 400. Maybe not 400. Huh, that's weird though. And the lights. Should be able to make this into a shape. Fitting content. Fit frame, there we go. Fit frame to content. But there should be paths. Nope. Pathfinder, convert shape. Here we go. Nope. Huh. I'm gonna find it again. Great outlines. Where is that? Type. So this does the same thing as in Illustrator where it takes a type object and turns it into a shape. That's easier to do, or kind of a better thing to do for these bits that maybe you want to be behind a bunch of stuff. So I'm gonna do this and then let's see, can we arrange it to the back, send it to the back? I don't see arrange. This is why I just go to the help menu. There. Send to back under object transform. I see. So it sends it to the back. So under my layers, under my pages, I don't know. It should be behind everything now. But I'm going to change the colors. Get it nice and light. Oh, it's not behind it. It is in the back. Oh, I don't know why it's not going all the way to the back. Oh, I think I do now. There we go. I do it in the master. So with stuff like that, you know, it's nice to have those. It's just a text object that gets used as a bit of decoration. Yeah. All right. I definitely suggest setting up templates, so your masters, and that way you've got something to go off of that you can edit easily, so you're not trying to edit each page individually.